Hey, if you've been making progress towards your goal, it's time to take the midterm exam to see exactly how far you've come. I'm Travis Wright-Colopy, the Executive Director of Fit and Able, and I just want to welcome you to Part 6 of the Tummy to Tuck series. This is the midterm. If you're just joining us for the Tummy to Tuck series and you've not watched the first 5 parts yet, please pause this video and go do that so you're caught up on the entire process and discussion so far. This video will be waiting for you when you get done with that. Except for those of you who went to law school like I did, most of us when we were in school had a series of grades throughout the semester. You had those quizzes, you had a midterm, and you had your final. Well, with Part 6, we are now halfway through this 12-part series for the Tummy to Tucks, and it's time for us to check in and see how far we've come. A midterm isn't just about getting a grade, it's about checking your progress, seeing what you've learned, seeing what you've done, so that you can find problem areas that you need to correct and improve on before you get to the final. Because the final is where it all comes down to see exactly what you've done, and you don't want to show up at the final seeing that you are not prepared for what you need to do. We've all had that dream, right? Of we get there to the classroom on the day and we find out we've got a final exam for a class that we have never gone to a single session of. Well, it's the same thing when we're working on our goals. You don't want to get to the end and find that it's game day and you haven't done any of the work. So sometimes, although we all don't like having to take tests in school, sometimes it's a good thing to actually have that midterm exam scheduled and in place so we can in fact evaluate ourselves. When we started this series off several weeks ago and we were talking about developing a plan, we first talked about having a goal. We talked about having a SMART goal, which is, measurable. And that having a measurable goal helps us have a plan, and the plan helps us achieve a measurable goal. Part of that plan has to incorporate opportunities for us to benchmark our progress, and this midterm exam is just that. Maybe you're looking to lose weight or run a faster 5K or half marathon time, whatever your goal might be. Now is when we are going to finally check on ourselves and have we actually been losing weight? Have we taken the time off the clock for those runs? Maybe we are getting close to the point where we have the race coming up, or we're getting closer to the point where I've got to squeeze myself into that tux. But at the midpoint of the plan, you should be able to see progress already for whatever you are trying to progress towards. Now, your midterm exam doesn't need to be anything super elaborate. If you're training towards a marathon, you don't necessarily need to go sign up for a marathon now and go run it. You don't really even need to run a marathon distance on your own. Why is that? Because you might not actually be there yet, and that's fine. Some of these longer term goals, these bigger goals, do actually require all of that time you have set aside for training for that goal to accomplish it. And if you're only halfway there, you might only be halfway through the training. So you can pick a reasonable distance. Maybe if you're up to the half marathon, or you're still in a 10K to 15K range. Pick something that you can actually do. But the goal here is to do it in a way that meaningfully tracks your progress, benchmarks your progress against the ultimate goal. If you're training for example, if you're training to run a, say, 3-hour marathon, can you run the half marathon distance at the pace you'll need in order to achieve that 3-hour marathon? If you aren't even at the half marathon stage yet, can you run, to start off with, a 10K? Can you run the 10K at the pace that you will need to accomplish the 3-hour marathon? If you're losing weight, obviously it's a different kind of test than just taking time off the clock, but you can measure your body mass, your body weight stats. You can, if your goal is to lose weight, obviously it's a little bit of a different test than pacing yourself against a clock, but are you losing, have you lost weight at the rate that you've set for yourself? Maybe that's 1 pound a week, or 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds. However aggressive your goal is, are you keeping track with that? And with those kind of weight goals, it's not just about the weight, because sometimes you put a lot of the work in and it doesn't seem like the weight is really coming off. But there are other things you can do to measure your progress. Just doing various exercise tests or measuring your body. If you started off and you weighed 215 pounds, and after a few weeks you're still 210, 212, yeah, you've made some progress, probably not the progress you were wanting to make, but you can still measure other things. Measure your waistline, measure different parts of your body. If you are running or you're doing strength training, have your biceps gotten a little bit bigger if you've been doing weight training. Have your quads gotten a little bit bigger. Maybe you haven't lost the weight you thought, but your body composition has changed. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm not making the progress, well, maybe you are. It's just not showing up the way that you're looking at it. Try to find some of those other metrics that will show you that you are in fact making progress. It's just hidden a little differently than what you're hoping to see. Other things might be like maybe your pants fit better, or you look better in your favorite shirt, or you can actually bend over and touch your toes and tie your shoelaces without having to bend at the knee, or it just feels better to stand up off the couch or when you roll out of bed. There are a lot of little things that we sort of take for granted, and we get used to those things not being present in our lives when we are out of shape or not doing the things we hope we would be doing. But then when we finally get to a place, we might not notice those things. A lot of people don't see the change in themselves when they look at themselves in the mirror every morning. Those changes are so gradual that they sort of just fly under the radar. Plus, we're also really hard on ourselves, right? We always want something sooner than we can probably achieve it, and we always want those results now. We want to feel that kind of accomplishment. But other people who aren't looking at us every day in the mirror might see us less frequently, and obviously very likely not seeing us all without our shirts on. They will see the progress you're making. No doubt you've had the compliment of, wow, you're looking great. Are you getting back in shape? You're losing weight? What are you changing? Even if you haven't felt it yourself or aren't seeing it yourself, other people will see it. Their feedback and their compliments are another way to test your progress towards your goal. So you got to kind of think outside the box a little bit when taking this midterm and grading yourself on it. We don't always do a holistic look at all the things we're doing and all the ways that we can show the progress we are making. But that's just part of the value of taking this midterm exam towards your goal. It's not just how far you've come, but maybe you have time now. You have experience with your plan. You've been using it day in, day out for a few weeks now. You can see what has worked, what hasn't worked. You can start finding those things. Maybe you can improve on it. You have half of your plan to go. If you see now that it's not working for you, don't just sit on it and keep doing that thing. Find what's not working, improve on it, and fix the plan for the next several weeks. The key thing here is if you're finding that you're not making the progress you had wanted, or that your plan isn't leading you down the path towards actually achieving your goal, you want to fix it now. But that's not the only part. If you find that you're actually making greater progress than you had expected, a couple things could be going on there too. Maybe the goal you set for yourself wasn't so far out as you thought. Maybe all it really took was just getting up off the couch and doing a little bit, and that goal was a lot closer than you originally expected. Maybe you're actually really just putting in a whole lot of work and just getting those results a lot faster, even if it is a big goal. And you can do a couple of things here. One, if you're making the progress you like and you just want to get to that goal faster, maybe you don't need the full 12 weeks. Steady on. Put the pedal to the metal and finish out that goal sooner so you can then move on to your next biggest one. That's perfectly fine. If you're on track or a little ahead of the curve where you thought you would be, maybe you can reevaluate your goal rather than the plan. Maybe you can set a bigger goal because you know you're going to get to this, you're going to achieve what you had set yourself out unexpectedly, and you want to continue the course, but maybe stretch a little bit further. Having a stretch goal is a good thing to actually have when you set out from the start. If you're wanting to lose 10 pounds, maybe that's your primary goal. So if you get that, fantastic, you did a great job, and that's awesome. But maybe you set another stretch goal that's 12 or 15 pounds, where if you hit the 10 but you don't hit the 12 or 15, you did a great job. You didn't fail. But if you're able to get that extra 2 pounds or 5 pounds off, then you did a phenomenal job. You not only hit your original goal of 10 pounds, but you hit that stretch goal, and you can feel 50% better about yourself on top of the great feeling you have of hitting that first goal. And the final thing to keep in mind with your midterm is, while you're grading yourself on how far you've come, on what you've done and what you have accomplished so far, don't be too hard on yourself. Remember, you are still in the process of doing the work towards your goal. You're not a failure if you're not there yet. Hopefully, when you created your plan, you can see what you still need to do between your midpoint now and the goal line 6 weeks, 8, whatever, however far out in the future it might be. You have to remember, you're only halfway there. So your progress should reflect that you're only halfway there. Don't beat yourself up and think that you cannot get to your goal in the end. You can still do it. Maybe you have to work a little harder or change something about your plan in order to get to the goal line you'd set for yourself. Maybe it's just one of those things where you need some time for the work to start compounding, and then your gains and progress to your goal will start increasing more exponentially towards the end once a lot of the things in your body or your mind or whatever going into your work start really ramping up and going a pedal to the metal. There are a lot of things in our life that are like that. We have to put in a whole lot of work to get that flywheel moving, but once it does, we're off to the moon. So be fair to yourself. Be nice to yourself. If you start beating yourself up, you're going to start getting a lot of those negative thoughts back in your head that are going to make it a lot harder for you to keep doing the hard work moving forward. And you're much more likely to just drop the ball and go sit back on the couch again. If you go back and look at a couple videos ago, maybe you have your plan laid out on just a phone app or a smaller calendar. Maybe you just need to blow up that plan like we had with the big wall chart and get it somewhere where you can't miss it, and where you have to look at it every single day, and that will help you keep moving. When we see things that we have to do today, tomorrow, the next day, it's kind of perverse, but it sort of creates a little bit of shame where we know what's coming and we don't want to not do it, because we know if we don't do it today, we're going to feel bad tonight, and we're going to wake up tomorrow feeling kind of bad, and that's going to make it harder for us to do the work tomorrow. And we know that we're going to feel bad about that tomorrow night, and so on and so forth. It sort of motivates us. Yes, I need to get it done today so I don't feel like crap tomorrow. Plus, you can really start checking off the days where you did the work in a really big way. If you get one of those wall charts and you got one of those days of your workout that's this big, you can see it across the room where all the days you had X'd out every single day of the week, weeks on end. Then it starts becoming months, and so on and so forth. You can see that progress, and it sort of just fills your sails and keeps you moving forward. There's a story that Jerry Seinfeld tells about how he's able to be so funny and write so many jokes. And he says he has a wall calendar that he has been using every year for 30, 40 years, however long he has been in the comedy business. And every single day he has to write at least one joke. And he knows that if he can at least write one, more often than not, it'll flow on and he'll write lots of jokes. And that's where you get whole episodes and seasons of Seinfeld and his stand-up and all these other great things. But some days he knows it'll be one joke and that's it. That's all he has in him. But he at least has that one joke. And it could be the worst joke ever. No one else will ever hear it. But he still did that. And that's a day he can cross off. And having those days where like the one awful joke that no one will hear, well, at least lead him to the next day where he might write 100 jokes that are, rolling on the floor, hilarious, that everyone loves. But he can look at these calendars going back all the years, and every single day has been crossed off because he did at least that minimal effort of writing the one joke. And you want that same thing. So when he looks at the calendar, he sees all that, and he gets to today where he hasn't crossed it off yet, and he sees tomorrow which hasn't been crossed off yet, and the day after. He doesn't want to break that chain of success. And when you have a winning streak that long, you don't want to break it. It'll kill you to break that winning streak. You want the same thing. So maybe you just have to blow up the goal, make it where you can't miss it, make it something that you don't want to break that chain of small successes that'll lead you towards your big success at the end. Just to recap, it's a very simple way to grade yourself on the progress you have made, to evaluate how far you've come, and maybe to evaluate what you need to change in order to get to where you want to go in the future. Don't be hard on yourself. Be fair to yourself, but be honest. If you haven't been doing the work, then you need to be honest with yourself that you haven't been doing the work, and you need to get up and start doing that. If you've been doing fantastic, and you're ahead of where you thought you would be, then finish out your goal earlier and move on to the next one, or maybe stretch your current goal out just a little bit further and finish out the plan you had started for yourself. So don't just show up to the exam and treat it like it doesn't matter, because it could be a very important thing for you to get to the final and be able to ace that exam. So that's what we have for you this week. Part 7 of the Tummy to Tuck series will drop next week, and we're going to start moving into the home stretch of working towards our goal. If you've enjoyed the content, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the future episodes of this series, and drop a comment below if you have any questions or comments about the series so far. As always, we look forward to seeing you at the future episodes, and if you thought this was helpful, maybe someone in your life might find it helpful too, so please share it with someone. And as always, thank you for racing with Fit and Able.